Thank you. I would like to begin by welcoming those members of the public and press who are in attendance. A few housekeeping rules before we begin. If members of the public in attendance need to use the facilities, these are located back on the ground floor, through the reception area and opposite Bewitched Coffee. Please note that if the fire alarm sounds, you are to make your way out the nearest fire exit and continue to the assembly point in Charles Street Square, in front of the multi-store car park. If the alarm is an intermittent sound, this indicates a lockdown. Attendants should stay in their seats and wait further instructions. Can I also remind everyone present to switch their phone off, place them on silent. Before we start the meeting, please can I remind everyone that this is a meeting held in public and is being broadcast live on the Council's YouTube channel, and that the recording will be made available on the website in due course. Please therefore speak clearly into your microphone. I would also like to remind all present that although this is a meeting open to the public, this is not a public meeting, and shouting out and other interruptions will not be tolerated. Anyone who persists in doing so will be asked to leave the meeting in line with the Council's standing orders. In the event of general disturbance, the meeting will be adjourned until order is restored. Before we start the proceedings, I would like to inform you that the speaking time has been doubled for both East of England Showground and the Road, Alwalton, Peterborough items. This is due to both applications being considered in one item. This time will be shared equally amongst each speaker. We've also had a request to extend the speaking time for items 5.2, 24/01-440/FUL, land to the south of Old Peterborough Road, Sutton, Peterborough. If committee agree, we will extend the speaking time to double for each group of speakers. Does committee agree on that?
Agree, yeah.
Thank you, members. This time will be shared equally amongst each speaker. Can I ask the Democratic Service Officer if there are any apologies for absence or lateness?
Thank you, Chair. We do have apologies from Councillor Fitzgerald. Councillor Ray is in attendance as substitute. And we have apologies from Councillor Rush. Councillor Hillier is in attendance as substitute.
Thank you. Does any member wish to declare any disclosable pecuniary interest or non-statutory disclosable interest? No? Thank you. Does any member wish to make representations as a ward councillor on any of the items listed? No? Thank you. The committee are asked to approve the minutes of the meeting from 2nd of September 2025. These can be found on page 3. Councillor Mahmood.
Thank you, Chair. I propose that we accept those minutes.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Roche.
Thank you, Chair. I would second that.
Thank you. Are we all in agreement? Thank you. Now we're on item 5.1, East of England Showground on Andal Road, Alwalton, Peterborough. The report can be found on page 11. Please can I ask Phil Moore to introduce the item? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, everyone. My name is Phil Moore, Head of Planning here at Peterborough City Council, and I'm going to present this item to you this morning. So this item relates to 2 outline applications for comprehensive redevelopment of the East of England Showground. This slide shows one of the applications outlined in red, which I'll refer to as Land A, and the second here again outlined in red, which I'll refer to as Land B. So effectively they're 2 halves, if you like, or 2 parts of the same development of the East of England Showground. This slide shows the site in its wider context, the old showground towards the southwest edge of the city. Now, I've got a number of photographs here. I'm not going to dwell on each photo. I'll go through these fairly quickly because I'm sure you all are familiar with the site and its context. So it just gives you an idea of the character of the site, mostly laid out to grass, but with some hard standing, tracks crisscrossing the site, the old grandstand with the speedway track next to it, the arena in the background. Another shot from the east showing the stadium. So these next slides just show the development of the area surrounding the showground from 1997 to more recently. So back in 1997, there wasn't a lot of development going on around the showground. Here you can just see the beginnings of the Alton Southgate development. And as we go through the years, you begin to see more development around the northern periphery. In 2014, the arena has been built. 2020, as you can see, most of the land around the northern and eastern sides has been developed. Most recent one, 2023, you can see the arena and the southern part of the site being used for temporary use, car storage and maintenance. And this shot shows some of the buildings and other features on the site. You have the arena, various ancillary buildings, a number of tracks crisscrossing the site, and there is the speedway track and stadium. So this is the illustrative master plan, which shows how the development would potentially look. Towards the north and east of the site, it's mostly residential. And then in the centre, you have a village green with a hotel, conference centre and leisure facilities around here, a new primary school and a care village. The number of parameter plans have been submitted with the application. I think it's important to go through these just to remind everybody of what is actually proposed here. So on Land A, this is the land use parameters plan, the kind of yellowy colour representing residential, the green is sports field. Then on Land B, similarly, residential over here. The pink represents the school, the blue represents the leisure facilities, green again sports facilities, and the purple is the proposed care village. Access and movement parameters plan, there's a central avenue proposed to go through the middle of the site, main access from Oundle Road, a secondary access off Dunblane Drive, but that will be restricted to emergency vehicles, pedestrians and cyclists only. And there's a number of cycleways and other movement corridors throughout that part of the site. Similarly, Land B, again you get the central avenue and a number of movement corridors throughout that part of the site. This is green and blue infrastructure, a number of open spaces and green corridors on both sides. Building heights parameters plan showing, density parameters plan showing a higher density towards the centre, getting less towards the periphery. Equally on Land B, high density at the centre, getting less and less to the edge. This is building heights, which is quite similar. Again, higher towards the centre of the site, with the highest buildings as part of the conference centre and leisure facilities. So next, just some computer-generated images showing what the development could look like. This is taken from, well, a view represented from the east. Resi here, leisure area in the middle, school over there, care village there, and then a number of other angles showing the development as a whole. So a bit of planning policy context. The land is allocated in the local plan as represented by this pink boundary. It's allocated for residential development, indicative quantity of around 600. And the allocation policy also requires the retention of the showground. Policy LP 36, is very specific that it should be a master plan development and it must demonstrate how the functioning showground would be retained. Policy LP 30 is what covers loss of community facilities, including showground, speedway track, etc. I won't go into this one. This is just a detailed policy on what's expected with urban extensions. So on to the background of how we got to where we are today. So this is the original officer assessment. So the application was submitted in early 2024, or the applications I should say. In the original officer assessment, it was considered to be, or both applications were considered to be contrary to the local plan, in particular those policies that I just mentioned, LP 30 and LP 36, primarily due to the loss of the showground and the speedway track. However, that was considered to be outweighed by other factors, including but not limited to economic benefits and the provision of new replacement leisure uses. And of course that was all subject to conditions and a Section 106 agreement to mitigate the impacts, particularly on impact on health, facilities, schools, highways and things like that. This was the recommendation made by officers to the Planning and Environmental Protection Committee, i.e. this committee, and also the Appeals and Planning Review Committee. And it was to approve subject to the conditions and Section 106, and also resolution of outstanding highways issues, and final wording of conditions in Section 106 to be delegated to officers subject, this is very important, subject to broad accordance with the schedule of conditions and Section 106 heads of terms as set out in those committee reports. And then the second part of the recommendation is a caveat that if the Section 106 legal agreement had not been completed or the highways issues not resolved within 6 months of the date of the committee, and there are no extenuating circumstances which would justify further extension of time, then committee delegates the issuing of a refusal to the Executive Director of Place and Economy on the grounds that the development has failed to adequately mitigate its impacts. So put simply, if the 106 is not signed by a deadline and there are no extenuating circumstances justifying extension, then it's a refusal. So the committee decisions, both of these applications were resolved to be approved eventually. So the Land B was approved by this committee on the 15th of October. Land A was refused at that committee, but then subsequently approved at the Appeals and Review Committee meeting on the 13th of January. So both of these applications were resolved to be approved by committee, and that's where we are today, subject to the recommendation, or in line with the recommendation, I should say. So, a number of things have happened since those committee decisions. So, a single Section 106 has been drafted and substantially worked up. The reason for that is to tie both of the applications together, because they're both two parts of the same development effectively. It wouldn't make any sense to have two separate Section 106s. It has to work together. The highways issues that were unresolved at those previous committees have now been fully resolved, and they were resolved pretty much within the 6 months. A lot of work went into that, both on the applicant side and the council side. A number of extensions of time have been granted. The reason being that at that time, there was every indication that all sides were working proactively and positively towards completing the 106. However, more recently, the East of England Agricultural Society, who are joint applicants with AEPG, have made requests that we make fundamental changes to the heads of terms as set out and agreed by those committees. So, the key issues here, this isn't an opportunity to go back to the drawing board and look at the merits of the application or the development itself. What we're talking about here is really just related to the Section 106. And in particular, should a further extension of time be granted? And are there any extenuating circumstances to justify any further extension of time? So our officer assessment of where we are now, so as previously mentioned, East of England Agricultural Society have declared that they're not prepared to sign the Section 106 in its current form and on the basis of the heads of terms as set out in the committee reports and as resolved to approve by previous committees. What they're seeking are significant deviations from those heads of terms, and that also, as well as being not in accordance with those committee resolutions, officers are of the opinion very strongly that the changes that are being sought are not acceptable, and that there are therefore no extenuating circumstances to justify any extension of time. So, recommendations for both of these applications is to refuse. The reason being that the development would not provide the necessary infrastructure to make it acceptable in planning terms, contrary to Local Plan Policy LP 14 and Section 4 of the NPPF. That's the end of my presentation. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. We have 8 people registered to speak on this item. Please, can I ask Councillor Day, Knight and Stephen, Ward Councillor, to address the committee. You will have 20 minutes between you and wish to address the committee. The Democratic Service Officer will let you know when you have 30 seconds left and then when the time has lapsed. When you're ready, if you can please switch on your mic and start speaking. I will say that you have 6 minutes and 40 seconds between you. And if you could start with Councillor Day, Knight and Stevenson.
Thank you, Chair. I'll address the committee first, if I may. I'm Councillor Stevenson.
Okay.
Thank you. And good morning, committee. I'm an elected member for Autumn Waterville Ward and Autumn Waterville Parish. I've represented the City Council Ward for more than 7 years and the parish for more than 10 years. I've lived on Autumn Northgate on former showground land for more than 10 years. I'm speaking to you today to ask the committee to heed the council officer's recommendation to refuse these 2 applications. The applicant has failed to meet the deadline for the Section 106 agreement. I understand from a statement issued by the applicant last week that they are unable to sign the current draft. This being the case, these applications should now be refused as per the conditions under which approval was granted in both cases. Regrettably, it appears that the relationships between the various parties is such that a Section 106 cannot be agreed at this time, even after a number of extensions to the initial deadline. As things stand today, residents of Alton Northgate and Alton Southgate, who are most directly affected by these applications, are not satisfied that they have been sufficiently consulted. I'm sure this is a wrong that the landowner would wish to put right. Residents continue to be concerned about overdevelopment of the site and are worried that local roads will not cope with the additional traffic movements the site will generate on a daily basis. Refusing the applications affords the landowner the opportunity to start the process over with direct input from local people. I pledge to do all that I can to facilitate positive and productive dialogue in this respect. Last week, the Council published its Peterborough Tourism Board offering, Discover Peterborough. Have we all forgotten the great amount of good our showground did for our city in terms of bringing people here to enjoy events and everything else the city has to offer? Surely it would be a great thing to develop something here that also contributes to the city's tourism strategy. This must be a very good time for the Council to sit down with EEAS and talk about the type of development that could tick a number of boxes. I don't believe that we should give up the fight for at least some elements of the showground to remain. I would ask you to think again about the loss of sporting and cultural heritage that these applications represent. I fully accept EEAS's need to sell the site, as well as the city's need for more housing with appropriate facilities. We owe it to the city and to the people who will live here in the future to get this right. These applications are not right. I received many emails and phone calls from people who want us all to get back around the table with EEAS and begin the process afresh. One of these is William Thomas, who is the CEO of the International Antiques and Collectors Fairs, the organisers of the Festival of Antiques, which for many years was held at the showground. I feel that Mr. Thomas's words encapsulate the current mood very well. He writes, "While I fully appreciate the growing need for new housing, I want to make sure the council also recognises how important this site has been and could continue to be for the people and the economy of Peterborough. The Festival of Antiques wasn't just an event, it was one of the UK's favourite antiques fairs, attracting visitors from all over the country twice a year. It brought people together, it boosted local pride, and it provided a real sense of community. Thousands would travel to Peterborough to attend, staying in local hotels and B&Bs, eating in local restaurants and spending money in local shops. The economic benefit was significant and wide-reaching, supporting jobs in hospitality, retail, catering, security and event management. The showground hosted a diverse programme of events, from fairs and festivals to exhibitions, shows and family days out. It was a cultural hub, something that gave people reasons to come together, to connect and to enjoy life, all at the same time massively contributing to the local economy. In an age where so much of our social and retail life is moving online, spaces like this are more valuable than ever, and given they give people experiences and not just transactions, and that's something every thriving city needs. The East of England Showground is arguably the best located and best equipped venue of its kind in the UK. Most towns could only dream of having a facility like this on their doorstep. Peterborough is lucky to have it, and I urge the council to take its unique value into account before making any final decisions. While EEAS asserts that the showground was failing, other operators may wish to come forward with fresh ideas. Surely an alternative can be developed that provides the best of both worlds. These applications must be refused so that we can reset what is a necessarily long but critical process that will lead to the best possible outcome for the city and our residents. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Before you address the committee, if I could just remind you, the merits and the development of the scheme is not an issue. The issue before the committee is a Section 106 agreement, and I would like if you could address us on that. That's what we'll be considering today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Day.
Thank you, Chair. I'm speaking on behalf of residents of Walton Waterville Ward, who I've represented for 6 years. My first thoughts about sitting here is here we are again, even though we raised our serious concerns about why these applications should be refused at the previous 2 meetings. We believe the applications brought to committee in October last year were not ready to be submitted to committee. However, outline permission was granted based on the proviso that highways issues and Section 106 legal agreements had been fully resolved. And yet, a year later, the Section 106 legal agreement and conditions have not been resolved. In fact, not even signed by both applicants. Therefore, this application should be refused and not given an extension. What you have in front of you are 2 development applications that have adequately failed to mitigate their impacts. Therefore, these applications should not even be heard at this planning committee. And after failing to meet 3 given deadlines, this application should have been automatically refused based on a democratically made recommendation. We support the officer's recommendation in the report to refuse both planning applications based on the fact that the Section 106 and conditions, community facilities and infrastructure have not been agreed, and attempts to change the Section 106 by EEAS must not be supported. Proposed amendments by the applicant, EEAS, include delayed delivery of leisure and community facilities, so facilities being built at the end of the development build rather than staggered as required. Reduced financial contributions on viability grounds, so the number of affordable homes reduced, which was very much promoted by this site, and EEAS as a sole signatory with a confirmatory deed. These changes materially alter the basis on which the resolution to grant, subject to completion of outstanding matters within 6 months, was approved. This is unacceptable and provides solid grounds to refuse this application. Residents are also concerned about the proposed traffic mitigations related to the Section 106. Traffic projections used to justify one access and the associated mitigations were based on a vision of what they should be, driven by the Council's traffic planning policies in the current draft 106, to reduce car use and promote cycling, walking and use of public transport. It can be strongly argued that this decide and provide approach is flawed given increasing car use, with 80+% journeys being taken by car, van and taxi. The 2022 just out of COVID benchmark use for residential traffic was Loch Lomond Way, which is likely to have very different demographics, work patterns and travel patterns to the new development. Also, the East of England Way feeds into Joseph Oden Way. The area has 658 homes, a hotel and a destination restaurant. No account is taken of this. The figures used claim total traffic in and out of Joseph Oden Way will be around 1,800 vehicles at peak times. Working from first principles and national statistics on vehicles and workers per household, rates of working from home and allowing for visitors and commercial traffic, the figure is actually likely to be about 4,000 on an average weekday. For non-residential traffic, the figures are equally underestimated. The leisure facilities, if developed as described, will attract many visitors, employ up to 1,000 people, many off-site, and unlikely to do the double journey in other than in vehicles. And at the moment, it includes figures of only 44 arrivals for the 250-bed hotel, 42 car arrivals for conference facilities, 34 arrivals for care village, and just 207 visitors, including staff at peak times, to the leisure facilities. The figures are clearly well underestimated. And it's recommended that for access for housing above 500 for a single access is highly dangerous. There remain, and it says this in the officer's report, outstanding technical and design issues around mitigation measures, around upgrade and signalisation of Oundle Road, Orton Parkway roundabout and around Linden Gardens. A year on, these are still unresolved and are linked to the Section 106 agreement. Objections and more information have been required from statutory consultees, and yet this has not been provided. These come from Archaeology, Public Health, Urban Design Doctor, the Wildlife Trust, PCC Open Space and Landscape, Chesterton Parish Council, Walton Parish Council, Orton Waterville Parish Council, and Cambridgeshire and Peterborough Integrated Care Services, otherwise known as the NHS. These are residents' views, who are not opposed to development in principle, but this application is a high-density development out of keeping of character with the Orton and surrounding developments. It is city centre-like in nature, where residents live in a suburban community. Residents request a lower density of dwellings, adequate green space, park areas and play areas, and good community facilities such as shops and a community centre, all linked to the Section 106. The plan to tack on leisure that changes when the mood changes is not providing anything of regional significance. It will not replace what the showground offers and what will be lost in conflict with the local plan policies. This needs to be refused and the landowner go back to the drawing board and come up with something that will benefit new residents. They'd be very keen to talk to the landowner around this issue. This application was not ready for approval a year ago and is not ready now, and I urge you not to allow any extensions and refuse these applications. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Day. Councillor Knight.
Thank you, Chair. Chair and members of the committee. We are here today because the East of England Agricultural Society, an organisation registered as a charity to serve the public interest, is requesting yet another extension to sign the Section 106 agreement for the showground development. They have already had ample time to complete this legal obligation. This extension is not just about needing more time to complete paperwork or follow process. It is being used as an opportunity to negotiate the agreed commitments. These include 1,500 homes, leisure facilities and vital contributions to schools, healthcare and highways. These contributions are not just numbers on paper, they are the foundations of a sustainable community. Despite all the talk of charitable duty and public benefit, the Society has made it clear they will not sign the agreement because they believe the financial contributions are too high. This is not about legal complexity, it is about money. The Society may argue that none of its trustees stand to gain personally from this development. That may be true, but this isn't about personal profit, it's about organisational gain. The Society is seeking to maximise its financial return from the land, even if that means reducing affordable housing and delaying infrastructure. That may serve their balance sheet, but it does not serve the public. The Society is citing its obligations under the Charities Act, specifically Section 119, which governs how charities dispose of land, as a reason not to sign the Section 106 agreement, which is part of the planning process. But let's be clear, Section 119 is about protecting the charity's financial interests, not the public's. If those legal protections are being used to avoid delivering affordable homes and vital infrastructure, then we need to ask whether the law is being used to serve the community or to sidestep it. And if the Society is invoking Section 119 to justify its refusal, then where is the independent report that supports this claim, if it exists? Why hasn't it been shared with the Council or the development partner? The Society is under no legal obligation to share it, but if this report is the basis of their justification for not signing the Section 106, then why choose not to? They describe themselves as a charity working for the public good, but a charity that seeks a delay and affordable homes and vital infrastructure is not acting in the public interest. It is acting in its own financial interest. They propose a viability mechanism, a clause that will allow them to reduce the affordable housing later if profits fall short. Let's call it what it is, a backdoor to lowering affordable housing after permission is granted. They also propose building hundreds of homes before delivering the infrastructure. This is not sustainable development. It is a gamble with our community's future. You cannot claim to support rural life while opposing the very housing and services that allow local families, rural and urban, to live, work and thrive in this region. Let me be absolutely clear. The Section 106 agreement cannot and must not be reduced. To grant this extension would send a message that commitments made to Peterborough can be weakened after approval. That is unacceptable. It would undermine public trust and place the burden on local taxpayers. And let us also look ahead. The Society knows that its request for an extension is unlikely to succeed. And in truth, that may be exactly what they want. Rejection allows them to move to appeal, a process that they are already preparing for. That appeal would be an attempt to override the democratic decision of this committee and the interests of our residents. If the committee does reject the extension, as it should, the decision will be the right one, grounded in public interest, planning integrity, and the commitments made to this city. And when it's challenged, it will need to be defended. To those who are listening, what is happening here is not about legal complexity or charity duty. It is about profit. The Society seeks to reduce affordable housing and delay infrastructure delivery, all while presenting itself as a public benefit organisation. This is not a technical dispute over planning paperwork. It is a test of whether promises made to communities can be quietly undone behind closed doors. Finally, I would like to thank the planning team for their hard work and designation over the past 5 years. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, councillors. Do any committee members have any questions for the councillors? No? Thank you very much. You may now return to the public gallery. Please can I ask Brian Connolly, Robert Clark and Karen Amshaw, the objectors, to address the committee. You will have 10 minutes between you in which to address the committee. The Democratic Service Officer will let you know when you have 30 seconds left and when the time has lapsed. When you're ready, if you can please switch on your mic and start speaking. I would say that you'll have 3 minutes and 20 seconds between you. Each. Thank you.
Chair, members of the committee, good morning to you. I am Brian Connolly. Thank you for the opportunity to address you today. I appear for Forever Panthers Limited and the campaign to preserve Speedway in Peterborough. We object to the officer's report and the proposed extension of time for these two applications. The officer's report disregards the clear and binding resolution passed by this committee on the 15th of October 2024. That resolution unequivocally stated that if the Section 106 agreement in highways matters were not resolved within 6 months, the application would be refused under delegated authority. That's set out in page 3 of the appendix to the briefing note, which I've circulated to all committee members. That deadline passed on the 15th of April 2025, yet officers have purported to unilaterally extend time multiple times without any legal or constitutional authority to do so. This undermines the democratic process and public trust in planning certainty. Secondly, and without prejudice to our primary contention that there is no application for which time can be extended, the Section 106 agreement has materially changed. The applicant now proposes delayed delivery of community facilities, reduced financial contributions and a sole signatory arrangement with the East of England Agricultural Society. These changes fundamentally alter the planning balance on which the original resolution was based. Finally, there is evidence before you of predetermination by a committee member, that member having been one of the signatories to the call-in request of the 17th of October 2024. And in terms of merits, these applications ignored the local plan and failed to apply national and local policies. They are not what Peterborough, through the local plan process, had decided that it needed. In conclusion, the officer's report is procedurally flawed, legally unsound and substantively misleading. I urge the committee to reject the extension and uphold the integrity of its original decision. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Chair, members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I was born in Peterborough and I've lived here the whole of my life. I stand before you today not just as a resident of Peterborough, but as a lifelong supporter of Peterborough Speedway, the Peterborough Panthers, a team that has been at the heart of our community for decades. I'm proud of my city and my whole family are Peterborough Speedway fans. I have been attending Peterborough Speedway meetings since 1980. When I was young, I used to watch alongside my grandparents, parents, aunties, uncles and cousins. Recently, I was able as an adult to provide the same life experience to my own children who are now also Speedway fans. To see our team win the Premier League in the last couple of seasons was priceless. For our team and our city to be recognised nationally and internationally for its achievements was amazing. Speedway is a family sport. My children want to see their heroes in Peterborough and frequently ask me when Peterborough Panthers will be back on track. These planning proposals overlook the cultural and social value of the Peterborough Panthers and the East of England Showground as a sporting venue. Speedway is more than just a sport. It is a tradition, a gathering point, a source of pride. Families, friends and fans from across Peterborough and beyond come together to support the Panthers. The roar of the engines, the thrill of the race, it's woven into the fabric of our city's identity. Approval of these applications without a clear and committed plan to preserve Speedway in Peterborough would be to disregard the voices of thousands who cherish this team and what it represents. The East of England Showground is not just a stadium, it is a place where memories are made, where families gather and where Peterborough's spirit roars louder than any engine. We're not opposed to change, but change should not come at the cost of erasing Peterborough's heritage. I urge the committee to consider the wider impact on community spirit, on local businesses, and on the legacy of sport in Peterborough. Let us find a way forward that includes the Panthers, not one that leaves them behind. Let's start by refusing the application before you today. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
My name is Karen Halmshaw and I was born in Peterborough. I've seen some incredible changes in my 65 years, but recently many facilities have been closed down, including the showground, which has kept Peterborough as on the national map for decades. So did the showground really need to close? Virtually every other showground across the country continues to survive and many are thriving. Why did Peterborough fail? Was it promoted properly? Irrespective of that, the proposition that it was not economically viable was arguably designed to support the applicant's proposals, which would then allow the site to be sold. Committee members, my real concern is that the two applications do not give anything of note back to Peterborough, and the plans are contrary to your own local plan, which refers to 650 homes alongside a functioning showground. It is mystifying that officers were persuaded that these applications were acceptable. 1,500 homes instead of 650 clearly represents significant overdevelopment. As for the leisure, AEPG stated that it would develop, and I quote, an exciting facility, a flagship, a new event destination for the UK, and they promised an attraction of national significance. What did they come up with? A massive housing estate and a care village with a hotel, a golf range, and unspecified token leisure facilities. A scheme lacking any worthwhile cultural and community facilities, and most importantly, no agricultural legacy. There was no proper consultation with the public. From what I have seen, there are now hundreds, possibly thousands, of disgruntled Peterboroughians, many of whom are belatedly finding out what is happening, and they are really enraged. In my view, highways remains a major issue by adding possibly 10,000 vehicle movements per day via a single access. Traffic chaos on Oundle Road is inevitable, and the projected traffic numbers as presented in the traffic assessment appear to be understated. The officer states that all highways matters have now been resolved and the mitigation measures approved. But I seriously question whether these proposals have been robustly analysed and assessed. So why is all of this relevant? The Section 106 agreement is now being challenged by the Agricultural Society. Incredibly, this party is the joint applicant. After more than 2 years and numerous missed deadlines, it now states that the whole scheme is not viable.
Can I just remind you, you've got 30 seconds left if you round up.
And that due to its charitable status, it cannot sign the agreement. It follows that the application should be refused, and your officer recommends this. Refusal will provide the opportunity for the society to come back with a scheme which is in accordance with the local plan and truly worthwhile, and will put Peterborough back on the national map.
Thank you, thank you. Committee members, do you have any questions? I have a question for Brian. In your address, Brian, you've said that a report of the officers is flawed. Can you expand on that?
I do, yes.
Can you expand on that?
We've seen it this morning. The resolution of this committee of the 15th of October 2024 was to require the outstanding matters to be concluded within 6 months. There was no question of extenuating circumstances. It was an absolute time limit. It was a guillotine. And I was here on that day, as I'm sure many of you were. The debate was very clear about the need for those matters to be concluded by that time, failing which the application would automatically be refused. Now, there was the words extenuating circumstances were included in the 13th of January resolution from the Appeals and Planning Review Committee. They're conspicuously absent from the resolution going back to October last year, and those minutes have been approved. So it's very clear there was no opportunity for time to be extended.
Thank you for that. We'll definitely have a question for the officers in that respect. Thank you. You may now return to the public gallery. Please can I ask Stephen Hemming and Ashley Butterfield as applicants to address the committee. You will have 10 minutes between you in which to address the committee. The Democratic Service Officer will let you know when you have 30 seconds left and when the time has lapsed. When you're ready, if you can please switch on your mic and start speaking. And you have 5 minutes each, not between you. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair and members. My name's Stephen Hemming from Lambert-Smith-Hampton. I'm speaking on behalf of the East of England Agricultural Society, freeholder of the showground site and one of the joint applicants. Members will be aware of the reasons for these applications coming forwards, which have been set out in previous reports to committee and are essentially as a result of continued losses arising from events at the site. Society is proud to play a vital role promoting agriculture and rural life in the region, but had to make the difficult decision to end the use of the showground for major events because of these losses. The proposed development of the site is intended to secure funding which will be dedicated to education and promotion of all things food, farming and countryside in the east of England. After making this decision, the Society entered into a promotion agreement with AEPR as joint applicants who have led the application process, which is standard practice under such agreements. After an initial extension of this agreement, the agreement expired earlier this year, since when the Society has been working with the Council in an attempt to reach a positive outcome. Following the most recent consideration of the applications by committee in January of this year, draft section 106 was only received on the 1st of August, at which time there were still a number of gaps and financial amounts not included. So we've only had roughly 2.5 months to the date of this committee in which to agree that 106. Society is a joint applicant, but they have not been party to any of the discussions regarding heads of terms included within the draft 106. And despite attempts to negotiate changes to these with the Council, have been unable to effect any change. Any landowner is perfectly entitled to secure the best possible outcome from the disposal of its assets and should not be pressurised into agreeing to a deal which they do not consider delivers this. Society are both a landowner and a charity, which brings with it additional requirements to ensure they achieve best value from any consent and its subsequent disposal. You will all be aware of the government's stated intention to deliver 1.5 million new homes during the life of this Parliament. However, rising construction costs, continued economic uncertainty has led to a reduction in the number of housing starts, with the government and many councils now looking at reductions to the level of both affordable housing and other contributions, which is of course already possible through provisions within the NPPF. The Society has concluded it is not able to sign the current form of the Section 106 agreement, requiring financial contributions and commitments beyond the current market position given the current challenging market conditions. Before granting planning permission, the Council also require the Society to first enter into a commercial agreement with AEPG, the terms of which are not in the Society's best interests, as advised to it by an independent third-party advisor. Various public assertions have been made as to the level of monies which could be received by the Society as part of this commercial agreement, but these assertions have not been accurately reported. The Society remains committed to the development of the showground site, which will deliver much needed housing for Peterborough, without which the Council's current 5-year housing land supply would be further reduced. We are aware of consents for similar schemes across the area which have been permitted with reduced levels of affordable housing and other contributions, and would welcome the opportunity to work with the Council to achieve a mutually beneficial outcome. Thanks.
Thank you.
Chair, members and residents, I'm genuinely sad to be here today in these circumstances. First, I want to thank the thousands of residents, families and children who have written to us and supported us. Their passion for Peterborough's future and their belief in the need for affordable homes has been humbling. From the outset, AEPG made a clear commitment to those communities, those families, those children, to deliver a development that would make a real and lasting difference. 30% affordable homes, new schools, health and well-being facilities, and open spaces for everybody to enjoy. And that was firmly committed to by AEPG. We acted on this mandate given to us, tried and tested and legally robust with the trustees in 2021. And the Society worked alongside us, happily and willingly, across that period, in full support of that vision for community benefit across Peterborough. However, more recently, that position has changed. We've been told this is advice coming directly from the Charities Commission. Yet no such advice has been shown publicly or transparently, albeit we have requested it. For the clarity to help everyone understand how it could possibly outweigh the enormous financial, social and community benefit this scheme brings, not only for Peterborough, but the charity itself. AEPG has remained ready and willing to sign the Section 106 agreement on the Council's approved terms. We stand and always stand by our promises. affordable homes, new infrastructure and opportunities for all. So while I regret deeply that we've reached this point, I want to thank the Council and the community for their professionalism, patience and belief in what this development could have achieved. We, as AEPG, remain committed to Peterborough and to continuing our work here, however that may take shape. And I sincerely hope that in time, every organisation, a charity or anybody at all, with land and legacy recognises true value lies not only in money and financial, but in the lives of communities improved of what we could have built together. Thank you.
Thank you. Do any members of the committee wish to ask any questions? Councillor Numan Ali.
What's your opinion as a joint applicant of the reasons why the S106 couldn't be signed, and if it is on viability grounds, is there any available documented proof of viability issue, and has that been shared with the council?
I'm aware, we've certainly been told by the charity, the S119, that the report that is required for a land disposal has been completed. We have requested that from the society, but they've rejected that request. We wanted to see that so we could work together and collaboratively understand the issue to work to a resolving situation, but they have said that is under legal restraint or constraint, and they were not prepared to share that with us. To my knowledge, I could be wrong, but I'm not sure if that's been shared with the council either.
Thank you. Any further questions? Councillor Ray.
Thank you, Chair. I suppose a follow-up on that one to yourself, Stephen, is, you know, why could this document not be available? If it does contain this information that proves viability, it was obviously enough to compel EAS and to convince yourselves that it wasn't worthwhile continuing on the current track. But it may have been enough to persuade this panel or your co-applicants as well. So, you know, if it's that compelling.
I think it's worth just setting out that we're talking about two separate things here. One is the Section 119 report, which is under the Charities Act. The other is the viability assessment of the 106 agreement. In terms of the 119 agreement, the 119 report, I don't know the situation behind that. I'm a planner, I'm not a charities lawyer, and I don't know whether that is available. That's certainly something which can be taken offline and fed back to the committee. In terms of the viability assessment, we received the draft 106 agreement beginning of August. We started to look at that. We had some conversations with the council, and we were led to believe that there may be some scope to look at what the contributions were. We started to do a report. It was very quickly became evident that on the basis of current market conditions and the requirements for the 106, that any development on that basis would struggle to stand up, I mean, neither AEPG nor the society are going to build this out. The site will have to be sold, and any house builder is would not have, in our view, would not have taken it on that basis. So unfortunately, we were then told that there was no scope to negotiate around the 106. So whilst we've done some initial high-level numbers, a detailed report hasn't been provided. But it is very clear that, you know, based upon what was within the draft 106, it would really struggle. And can I just say that it's not necessarily, I think there's been a lot of talk about the affordable housing, both from members and from previous speakers. NPPF doesn't necessarily say your first port of call is reduce the affordable housing. It says that, you know, contributions can be looked at, and overall it may be a variety of things which might be moved around so that you get your 30% affordable housing, but other contributions aren't made.
You've got a follow-up? Yeah, please do.
Thank you. Yeah, I did pick up on, we were talking two different things. Like I say, the viability report would be a separate document that looks at the viability of the project as a whole. And appreciate you confirming there that a full viability report hasn't been done. It's kind of based on loose market work, which I would have thought potentially would have been done at an earlier stage. And then separately, you've got the Section 119 requirements. That specifically was what I was asking about that would have been a worthwhile thing, like you say, to feed back, because there won't be opportunity after this meeting. My second question was more around, you said that as landowners you weren't necessarily privy to the heads of term or the negotiations early on until the draft 106 came through. Just as a question, because as a joint applicant, we would expect that you would have had sight of or would have been kind of aware. And I appreciate that the 30% affordable housing wasn't a council stipulation. That was included within the application. That was something that was offered, if you like, as part of the package. Because as you're aware, this obviously has gone on for a while. We have to look at the value of a development, not necessarily in terms of the value of the house prices, but the value for the community. And it seems that looking to change the heads of term is to take away the community value rather than affordability or price value. So were you not aware of those sort of things at an earlier stage? Because it just seems a bit bizarre to have got to that stage before you were aware of kind of what you'd offered.
Yeah, I mean, obviously those heads of terms were set out in the committee reports going back to last year. So yes, obviously aware of them. I mean, our involvement as Lambert Smith Hampton came about from, I think, earlier this year, springtime this year. We weren't advising the society prior to that. I believe that it was was it October last year? Okay, yeah. I think I only became involved in it on the planning side, giving advice on the planning side, probably May time of this year. And I believe, and Duncan Fury, Chief Exec, is in the room if he wants to clarify this, if you want clarity. I believe it was a completely different set of trustees and board at that time.
Thank you. Any further questions? I have a question. In your address, you said that the Agricultural Society is not willing to sign the 106 agreement. But looking at the background of the application was granted subjected to 106 agreement. How could you not notice that?
I think we've always been aware that any consent is subject to a Section 106 agreement. What we're saying is that we cannot advise the society to sign it upon the terms of it as it stands at the moment.
Thank you. Any further questions? Would you like to? Yes, please do. No.
Thank you very much. Stephen's mentioned, and I'm surprised Stephen's mentioned, and it's an unusual situation here, the sort of politics involved, but that the society would find it hard to sell a piece of land in the current market, when actually we as AEPG went through a legally robust, Charities Commission robust process of marketing the site, and the site was marketed through an agent, JLL, robustly. Now, that process took over a year, and we went through all of the national house builders to find a house builder that offered an amazing price of high value, and is still sticking to wanting to pursue the purchase and sale of the site, or purchase of the site. That offer was above all of the other market offers, and JLL have confirmed that that was above the market price required for a site of this development. So we're wondering why that cannot be accepted. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hiller?
Thank you, Chair, and through you. You've thrown a bit of a pebble in the pond there, haven't you? You two were once, certainly the two organisations were once happy bedfellows, and that seems to be far from the case now, which is a shame from a progress point of view, perhaps, but you fundamentally disagree from what you've just said over the viability of the site in open market conditions. You say you've had a robust marketing campaign and have achieved an offer, a viable offer, presumably, well in excess of what you originally thought the site was worth. You fundamentally disagree. that that's the case from what you've said. Can you just clarify that, please, for my own satisfaction?
Yes, please do.
I think the paperwork speaks for itself. We have a report from JLL stating that the deal on offer from a house builder is robustly over and above the required net position to be achieved on a land sale through the Charities Commission guidance. That's what we have. We've not seen sight of the S119 rejecting that, so we are none the wiser to why. Is that okay as an answer for you? Yeah.
That is an answer, certainly. I'd be interested to see what your take on it is.
Well, as I say, the Society have been provided with a Section 119 Charities Act report based upon the heads of terms that are set out within the current draft 106 agreement. We've separately done viability assessments on that basis, and we obviously are in two different places.
I suppose if there was somebody out there ethereally knocking heads together, I guess this is probably a time for it. But yeah, absolutely. I really am still confused. You say one thing, you disagree. You say one thing, you disagree. I mean, where are we as a committee to draw any validity from what either of you say, I have to say. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Ray?
Thank you, Chair. I mean, ultimately, it's not for us to consider market viability as to whether you can sell your land or not is very much a question for yourselves. For us, it's about, is it worthwhile for the community? And that's therefore what the 106 is for. I think we had an application come in which had a number of objections, a number of people speaking against it, a number of serious considerations that we had to make, and the things that offsetted those requirements were the things that included within this 106 requirement. Now, that's not changed from our point of view. We still need those things to make it worthwhile and to make it happen. Like I say, you've gone on, you've done your report. It's a shame that we've not got CEO, a trustee, someone from EAS to kind of ask questions of, because I appreciate they make a policy decision. They have to consider the 119, but the 119 section just requires them to have considered said report. Doesn't outline that they cannot. It means you need to have considered this and deem that there is value. And like I say, there is value that comes from things more than just money. So I suppose my question is, hopefully you've at least seen that report that's come through. Was it a question of, it says this is no longer viable, or did it say it could be more viable? Is it a question of you're not going to make money, or is it a question of you could make more money?
The section, I mean, we're straying outside of planning really here, but Section 119 of the Charities Act requires a charity to dispose of an asset and demonstrate that disposal is at best value. As members, you will know that best value can mean a number of things. That report comes back and says the disposal or the disposal upon the terms, and it's not just the 106, it's the disposal terms. It is not representing best value to the charity.
Thank you. Final question to you, Stephen. It's again 106. Now, my understanding is that you are here to address the committee to gain some extension of time. And from your address, you've categorically clearly made it clear that you're not going to sign the 106 agreement. If that's the case, then extension of time is relevant, isn't it? Or am I right to understand that you wish to change the head of terms totally? Is that correct?
We've sought to engage with your officers in terms of getting to what we would consider to be an acceptable 106. I think in discussions with your officers, I think just taking a step back, an application of this scale or applications, cumulative applications of this scale, I think it's probably pretty rare that applications wouldn't come in accompanied by a viability assessment. I think it's pretty rare that there would be no detailed negotiation on the terms of the 106, and your officers have confirmed that that's the case. So what we're seeking to do is to sit down with your officers and try and get to a position whereby we can agree a 106 which is acceptable to the society, which they can their trustees can sign up to, and will satisfy the requirements of the Charities Act.
Thank you, thank you. Any more questions now? Thank you very much. You may now return to the public gallery. Right, committee members, do you have any questions for officers? Councillor Ray?
I suppose, and potentially stealing your question if it may have followed, Chair, but just looking for a response in terms of the matter coming to us today, it not being automatically rejected after 6 months and the extensions that have taken place. I mean, from one of the slides that you did have up on the screen, it did seem that there was provision there for it to be extended based on certain things, then for the Executive Director to refuse at a certain level. I'm also aware within Council policy, the Executive Director can refer things to the Planning Committee if it is of significant public interest, which I believe it probably is. But yeah, would you like to comment and respond on those claims from earlier on from Brian?
Yeah, thank you, Councillor. Through you, Chair. Let's just go back to the slide that shows that recommendation. So this was the recommendation that went before both the Planning and Environmental Protection Committee, i.e. this committee, back in October, as well as the Appeals and Planning Review Committee in January. The gentleman said that it wasn't in the committee report for the October committee. It was in the update report. It was definitely there. Members were fully aware of it, and they made their resolution based on that recommendation. There's no doubt about that. So, as you rightly say, the recommendation delegates authority to officers to decide whether there's extenuating circumstances which justify any extension, which is what we've done. We've made a judgment that previously everybody was working proactively and positively towards getting the 106 completed in a timely manner. And I think it would have been unreasonable for us to have decided, no, that's it, we're cutting it off. And that, you know, I don't think that would have stood up at appeal. We would have ended up with costs and all sorts. So I think it was mentioned that it wasn't in the minutes. The minutes are a summary of the decision-making process. They're not, as I've stated in the update report this time, it's not a forensic breakdown of absolutely everything that was said and done at that committee. It's a summary. So just because the minutes don't explicitly include the wording of this recommendation doesn't mean that committee didn't make their decision based on that recommendation. It's clear from the it's all filmed, you know, we can watch those committees back and it's clear that how the decision was made. I don't think there's any doubt there at all on what basis members made their decision at both of those committees. And I think another point that was made was that somehow the decision is automatically a refusal after 6 months. That's not how it works. A decision isn't made until we formally issue a decision. And at this stage, no decision has been issued. So that was incorrect.
Councillor Skipstead.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to ask Phil, there were 3 extensions given, but I understand that the relationship between AEPG and EEAS broke down around about March. So how come they were given more extensions after you were aware that that relationship was not working? Thank you.
It's difficult to give an exact time of when their relationship broke down. I mean, that's something that's beyond... We don't necessarily know what's going on between the individuals and the applicants. So at the time when we granted extensions, it did appear to us that, you know, things were going in the right direction. So, and then obviously that's changed now, hence why we're back at committee recommending refusal.
Thank you. Any more questions? Councillor Ray?
Probably just a shorter one in terms of for answering, but can you just confirm, obviously, where there was delegation to yourselves and to officers to negotiate the final wording of the 106, that we have not significantly changed what we were asking for? That draft, whether it was produced in August or whenever it was sent over, does reflect those head of terms. We've not moved the goalpost at any point, and actually what was set out has remained our view the whole time.
Yes, that is absolutely correct. The idea of putting the wording in the recommendation subject to broad accordance with the section 106, that is intended to allow a little bit of flexibility around the detail rather than any fundamental changes to the financial contributions that are required or other sort of big ticket items. So yes, the section 106 as drafted and in its current form is in line with the heads of terms that were presented to committee.
Thank you. Any more questions? Phil, if you've answered the question, is round where Brian in his address said that the report was flawed. I know you've touched on it. Are you satisfied that the response you've given to us is more than sufficient, or would you like to expand on that?
Well, I think I've probably answered the question, but my understanding of what the gentleman was saying is that, in his view, we didn't have the right to grant an extension, and somehow that meant that the decisions were automatically made. So I've explained that. I don't believe that there's any flaw in the report. We had the report checked and reviewed by a barrister. So, you know, we don't do these things without thinking about them in detail first.
Thank you. Any further questions to officers? No, in that case, then we will move to debate. Does any member wish to start debate? Councillor Hiller.
Yes, thank you, Chair, and through you, I'm more than content to offer an opinion on this. In the years that I've sat on this committee, I don't think I've ever experienced something like this, where an application of such magnitude and affecting so many people has had this sort of disagreement between two people ostensibly wanting the same thing, which is very odd. It is, as I think our planning officer, Mr. Moore, explained very clearly at the outset, it is about one particular issue here, which is the signing of a 106 agreement, which is agreed. We've had 3 new dates, that's 4 deadlines missed. I slightly disagree with Councillor Ray in that the 106 viability was the tack that I was going in on. One former partner says that it's viable, the site. Another says that it isn't, and that's the reason for not signing the 106 when required. In popular parlance, Chair, I suggest that's probably what's known as an impasse. I don't see that we can actually get round that. We certainly can't as a committee, that's not our remit. So I have no hesitation in accepting the officer's recommendation. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Hiller. Councillor Mahmood.
Thank you, Chair. Through you, yeah, no, I've listened to the speakers and all of that, and I'm of the similar view as my colleague Councillor Hiller. I am also extremely baffled about how we've got to this, but essentially I think the other thing I want to make absolutely clear as well is the fact that in October last year the committee exactly knew what they were voting for. That there's no sort of doubt about that in my mind. So yeah, in this moment in time, I will be going with officer recommendations unless members can convince me otherwise.
Thank you. Councillor Warren.
Thank you, Chair. And I think I'm in a similar agreement with the 2 previous speakers. I was obviously previously in favour of this application. I think this still is viable. But I think we've come to this impasse and situation, which is sadly to see that these applicants cannot agree. And with the agreement that we made in October and January, with the 106 and the heads of terms, this will not be come into fruition. So therefore, I will go with officer's recommendation based on the refusal of the, or non-agreement of the 106 agreements.
Thank you. Councillor Risby.
Thank you, Chair, and through you. It seems I'm in agreement with my colleagues here of everything that's been going on. And as Councillor Hill has said, I've never heard of any group of people coming together for one thing that actually disagree. The fact that it was said that there's no signing of the agreement, we're here for 106, it's not going to be signed, so I agree with officer's recommendation. It has to be signed or you cannot agree it. Thank you.
Any further debate? Councillor Ray?
Yeah, I think, not to echo too much what my colleagues have said, but it's a very bizarre position that we seem to have the two applicants sat there, one of whom saying, we'll sign it. Put it in front of us, we'll sign it now, no need to extend, here we are. And the others going, you can give us an extension, but we still won't sign it. So even the applicant, it doesn't seem, wants an extension and won't sign it if we did give them one. So I don't think there'd be much to gain from offering an extension. I don't think it would get the right results for the charity, for the promoter, or for the residents of Peterborough. So I'm, yeah, absolutely minded to agree with the officer's recommendation.
Councillor Skipted.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I agree with my colleagues. This was a very, very large and complex application, which I was part of last year, with many objections. So it is vital that the infrastructure is in place. So if the applicant is not willing to sign the 106 agreement, I would definitely go with the officer's recommendations and refuse. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, my input on this is that I don't see they've made any representations for extension of time. I don't think so they have. Can we mediate? No, we can't mediate. But if the both parties come to an agreement, I'm willing to give them a pen to sign the 106 agreement. I'm willing to offer that. That's, again, for them to come to an agreement. I don't think they've put a compelling case for an extension of time. The real issue between us is 106 agreement. That planning application was approved subject to 106 agreement. That remains the case. And on that basis, I'm also happy to go with officer's recommendation. Now, if the debate is over, can I ask for a proposal? Councillor Hiller.
Yes.
Councillor Hiller, just 1 second, please.
Sorry.
So we're taking a proposal and second on the first proposal, and then it's going to be the second one. Okay, yeah. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, thank you for that clarification, but I was aware of that, and I'm sure members are for something of this gravity. I could, just before I do make the recommendation, can I just applaud verbally the three ward councillors who I thought made a very, very powerful case on behalf of their residents, and you should be proud of the addresses that you gave today. Very interesting, very succinct, and I think very much to the point. So I personally appreciated that, as I'm sure my fellow members did. My proposal, Chair, is that we accede to the officer's recommendation on the first item.
Thank you. Could I have a seconder?
Yeah, I'll be happy to second that.
Councillor Skipsted. Now, thank you. We will now move to the vote on the first showground item, 23/00400/OIT. If members can raise their hands for those in favour. Now, those against? And finally, abstentions. Thank you, members. Karen, please, can you read the result?
Thank you, Chair. That is unanimous to go with the officer recommendation for the 23/00400/out part of the showground report.
Thank you. Can I also have a seconder for the second showground item? Doesn't say it here. I'm reading my script. I thought it was going to be a proposal. Yeah, can I have a proposer, please?
You're an intelligent man, Chair. You should know the protocol by now. Yes, I'm happy to make that proposal, Chair, for the second item.
Councillor Mahmood, are you happy to second that?
Yeah, happy to second that, Chair. Thank you.
Right. Thank you. We will now move to the vote on the second showground item, 23/00412/UT. If members can raise their hands for those in favour. Now those against. And finally, abstentions. Thank you, members. Karen, please can you read the result?
Thank you, Chair. That is unanimous to go with the officer recommendation for 23/00412/OUT East of England Showground.
Thank you. That matter has been concluded. Thank you very much. Members, how long would you like a break for? Thank you very much, and welcome back. Before we proceed on item 5.2, I would like to bring Phil in. We received something last minute which he likes to give an explanation on, and then we will take a vote from the committee on it. Thank you. Over to you, Phil.
Thank you, Chair. Firstly, apology to all of those who've turned up today to witness this next application being debated. Unfortunately, we've had a very last-minute piece of information come in, which, following discussion with our legal colleagues, we've made a decision that there's a need to ask committee to vote to defer this application. And through you, Chair, can I ask our legal colleague just to expand on that?
Thank you. Emma, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, members, we have received further information very recently that will need to be reconsulted on, which to ensure that all our processes are being done in the correct manner and not, and to be fair to all parties, we feel that the officers will need to recommend a deferral until the next committee meeting of this item to ensure that all our processes are being followed in the interest of fairness.
Yes, Phil, would you like to come in?
Yeah, just to clarify, the reason why we're doing this is because we want to make sure that any decision made by the council on this application is robust and not open to potential legal challenge. So we feel that this course of action is necessary to do that.
Do members have any questions regarding that? No. So what I'm going to say on this is that we had a discussion with our legal team. Some paperwork has come at the last minute, and the council has a duty to follow the due process. And we've got to bear in mind that if a process is not followed properly, there's always a possibility for JR, and that costs the council. So in the best interest of the council, in the best interest of the applicant, and the best interest of the objectors, we came to the conclusion that we defer the matter until we give them the opportunity to do that consultation process is followed. So on that basis, you want to come in?
Yes, Chairman, and through you, can you clarify whether this is new information, clarification on existing information, and can you clarify that it's of a substantial material nature?
Emma, would you like to respond to that?
Yes, planning officers might be able to expand on this slightly further, but the information provided has meant that one of the reasons for refusal has fallen away, so is seen as fundamental information which should be in the public domain for the public and interested parties to comment on.
Thank you. Would you like to add anything else on that, Phil or Polly?
Yeah, I'll do it, yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, just to expand on that through you, Chair. As members will be aware, the original committee report had two reasons for refusal. One was around landscape. The other one, the primary reason, was around it was felt that the need for the cemetery had been overstated. And once the committee report, when the committee report had been published, the applicant submitted some new information around burial rates, which we consulted our bereavement services on, and which resulted in us dropping that reason for refusal in the update report. However, at the last minute, literally at the last minute, this morning as I was sitting here, we've received a challenge to that, And the challenge is that we ought to have done a full reconsultation on this new information submitted by the applicant. And having discussed it this morning with legal colleagues, it was felt that in order to ensure a robust decision that it minimises the risk of legal challenge, we should defer or ask the committee to defer and then carry out that reconsultation so that all parties can respond to that new information that was submitted. It doesn't necessarily mean that the recommendation will change. It's just a procedural issue to allow all parties to respond, give them adequate time to do that before we bring it back to committee.
Thank you. Councillor Mahmood.
Thank you, Chair, and through you, I just want to clarify that if the officer's recommendations are not going to change with regards to this material consideration, I just want to clarify why we're deferring this item, despite of what you've just said. I just feel that we're delaying it for the sake of it. So, yeah, if you could clarify that.
What, do you want to respond to that?
Through you, Chair. It is not necessarily the case that the recommendation will not change. Once a reconsultation has been undertaken, we'll have to look at the responses that come back and consider those in the round as well. So we'd have to look at the whole of the recommendation again in the light of any new representations that are made. So it's not a given that the recommendation will not change.
Councillor Ray.
Thank you. So to clarify, if, say we were sat here today and we were looking at the original recommendation that came through, which still included that item for refusal, we could have been presented with the evidence from the applicant today at the table. We could have then decided that that reason wasn't sufficient, and we may have heard that within the debate, and we may then have dropped that reason anyway. So, we don't go to consultation for every point that's raised during debate, because you'd never make a decision. It seems that it's information that could have been introduced at the table. We wouldn't have been able to go back out to consultation. We'd have had to deal with it here and then and make a decision. That's what we're here to do. So yeah, it just seems odd that they've had extra time to process that information. They could respond to it in their comments. Clearly they're aware of it. If there's been an email that's come through this morning, it just seems like, yeah, we're delaying based on something that we're all aware of and know. But I appreciate, in the eyes of the law and potentially being open to review, there is that complexity. But I just think, yeah, we have to respond to information as we receive it in a debate. That's how they work. So, yeah, it just seems a shame to delay and to delay all the people that are present.
Thank you. Would you like to respond to that?
Yes, through you, Chair. It's not simply to look at the content of what's being presented. We also have to be aware of our process. We have to be aware of what's in our statement of community involvement, and also what the national guidance on consultation and reconsultation is. Those are procedural matters that, even if we were convinced that we had made the correct decision in planning terms, we need to have made the correct decision in terms of process as well. I don't know if legal services want to add anything, or whether I've covered that off sufficiently.
Would you like to add anything?
Yeah, nothing to add. I think we, obviously, with planning, it's very process-driven, and we have to follow all our processes to ensure that we can't be challenged.
Councillor Hiller?
Yes, thank you, Chair, and through you. I was going to say it is about process rather than just planning issues. It is about the process of how this committee works, and the process of consultation, and the process of other people being able to input. And I personally would try to make decisions on facts and the truth, and what is actually being reported by people that know what they're talking about, not least of which is our planning officers. So if we've had legal advice that we should be deferring this for process reasons, then I'm happy to accede to that, frankly. Thank you, Chair. We need to be seen to be doing it right.
Thank you. Councillor Ray?
Sorry, can you just confirm in the recommendation, or when it's moved, at what point we'd be deferring it to, or for how long? Because obviously we don't want to just kick this into the long grass. Presumably, process is allowed for timescales, so we know. Thank you.
Do you want to respond to that, Phil?
Yes, it would be a deferral till the next committee, which I believe gives us sufficient time to do the reconsultation, 14-day reconsultation. So that's the 11th of November is the next committee.
Councillor Skripstead.
Can I just ask, is that the case with all extra information that comes at the last minute, or is it just certain types of information? Because I'm sure we've had bits that have come very late other times with other cases. Thank you.
Phil, would you like to respond to that?
Yes, through you, Chair. So I think it depends. It depends on the nature of the information and the extent to which it is material, the extent to which it changes the original application as submitted. It's a matter of planning judgment. We do have a statement of community involvement, which is adopted by the council, which sets out the circumstances where we should reconsult. Again, some of it is down to officer judgment, but if it's a key issue, and in this case we're making the judgment here that this new information changes one of the original recommendations or one of the original reasons for refusal in a substantial way, we're making the judgment that yes, it does in this case need to be reconsulted on.
I think we've had enough debate on this. I would just like to apologise to both parties for the frustration that is caused, but I did initially say that we're going to have a 15-minute break, and it lasted for 30 minutes. That clearly demonstrates that we were having robust discussions and looking at the relevant policies and seeing everything in a different angle. And the main thing that was in our mind to be fair and transparent, and that due process is followed, and we don't have any implication at a later stage. And on that basis, we came to an agreement that it's better that if matters has been deferred, then the consultees get the opportunity to have the proper consultation, so that the process procedure is not challenged in any way or shape. So on that basis, can I have a proposer so this matter could be deferred? Councillor Isby.
Yes, I propose that we do defer this until the next meeting.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Warren. All those in favour? Against? Any abstentions? Karen, can I have the result, please?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, it has been agreed to defer this item to the next meeting on the 11th of November. Unanimous.
Thank you. Please. Yeah. Item 5.3. The report can be found on page 165. Please can I ask Mr. Asif to introduce the item? Thank you. Again, technical issue. We'll have to wait for 5 minutes, no problem. I think that's a wise thing to do. Right, Asif, can you introduce the item, please, then? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and through you, this planning application seeks planning permission for the erection of a medical facility with associated access, car parking and landscaping works. The site is located in Thorpewood, adjacent to Worldwide House. So this slide shows the location of the site within Thorpewood Business Park. To the left of the site is Worldwide House, which is a non-designated heritage asset. The site is largely located on open piece of grassed area, but some of the existing car parking serving Worldwide House to the right of the application site, just in this area here, will be within the application site. Also to note, the access road into the site, so all the way up along adjacent to Thorpewood, is a privately maintained road, with Thorpewood being the extent of the public highway. As members will know on site, the application site, well, adjacent to Worldwide House, there is a large grass area, so the application site doesn't entirely encompass the grass area, so the next slide should show a bit more of a visual of that. So this slide shows in that red rectangle, the grass area with the part of the car park that's included within the application site. So also to note within this site is the blue arrow marks the Thorpewood A47 junction, which is the key consideration within the local highway authority's remarks. So this is a ground floor plan. The color coding shows the different purposes of the room. The principal use of the site includes day surgeries and consulting rooms. There isn't a overnight stay provision within this site, and that has been conditioned that the site is purely used for day surgeries, consulting, with no provision for overnight stay. There is a partial first floor element, but largely the building is single story. These are the elevations of the building. The officer's view is that the building provides sufficient interest, sufficient breakup and use of materials to ensure a good quality building within the business park setting, which doesn't adversely impact the character and appearance of the business park. So this slide shows the site plan. So the proposal includes quite extensive car parking for the proposed development, as well as an extensive amount of landscaping throughout the site to soften the extent of hard landscaping required. So the blue arrow shows the main access into the site, and this red arrow indicates the emergency access. So along this route, whilst not including within the red edge, there is a access road that comes out onto the red edge just up here. So again, the arrows of the same color indicate the same things. This is a bit more of a detailed landscaping plan to show how the car park has been softened and how the applicant has tried to make the design of the building fit in with the quite verdant character of Thorpe Wood and the business park in general as well. So this is a street view looking towards Worldwide House. So the image is currently on the existing car parking area, so part of this would be within the application site, but as members would note from the site visit, it's a fairly flat landscaped area. The small bollards to the right-hand side roughly indicate the extent of the application site. So to the right of that grassed area will be retained. And obviously to the left of it is the application site. So a couple of things to note is the background of Worldwide House, as well as the leisure facilities to the left-hand side, namely the tennis and the outdoor sports provision. So this view looks across with Worldwide House to the right-hand side, and the application site set back. Again, you can see the sports facilities to the rear and the car parking to the left-hand side. So this area would not form part of the application site. It's just a view to show the setting of the proposal. So this is a 3D image just to kind of capture the wider setting. So you've got the tennis and sports facilities to the right-hand side, the application site, which you can use the path as a bit of an indicator of whereabouts it is, noting the quite flat grassed area, and then the area to the left of that path and in front of Worldwide House is being retained. So the arrows, the blue arrow shows roughly the location of the site access. So the main considerations. The main considerations can be split into harms and benefits in this application. The harm in this instance is the severe residual cumulative highway network impact and the associated highway safety impact. As such, the conflict with policy LP13 of the local plan and paragraph 116 of the MPPF. The highway impact is specifically on the Thorpe Wood A47 junction in the PM peak. The Thorpe Wood A47 junction is an already capacity constrained junction. The submitted transport information showed that whilst the number of journeys resulting from the proposal, when compared to the journeys currently using the junction, are small, the LHA is of the view, the local highway authority is of the view, that the additional trips on the already capacity constrained junction would result in a severe residual cumulative highway network impact and associated highway safety impact. So this associated highway safety impact would largely be from behaviors of drivers in congestion. So this would be edging out when it may not be appropriate, or trying to go when it may not necessarily be an appropriate time. So it's that specific rather than a specific highway safety impact from the proposal itself. On the other hand, the public benefits of the scheme relate to addressing the known health inequalities in Peterborough. So the local plan sets these out, including life expectancy lower than the national average, significant health inequalities between some wards in Peterborough, and higher mortality rates in Peterborough than the national average. Whilst the proposal would not solve all of Peterborough's health inequalities, the proposal would increase capacity for both the NHS and private insurance cases. The proposal would, in effect, be an extension of Fitzwilliam Hospital and would also free up capacity within Fitzwilliam Hospital. The case officer report sets out in detail the balance officers had to strike between harm and the benefits, and this planning balance is the main issue before members today. To summarise the matter before members, planning legislation sets out clearly that all planning applications must be determined in accordance with the development plan. In this case, it would be the Peterborough local plan, unless material considerations indicate otherwise. As set out within the previous slide and the case officer report, officers recommend that the benefits of the scheme outweigh the harm, and subject to conditions, recommend approval before members. The conditions would also include condition 15, which requires the submission of a full travel plan, which would seek to secure robust, sustainable travel measures to limit the extent of the vehicular impact of the proposal as much as possible. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for your presentation. We have 3 people registered to speak on this item. Please can I ask Neil Whittingham, Stephen Longstaff and Georgina Steris, the applicant agent and consultant, to address the committee. You will have 5 minutes between you in which to address the committee. The Democratic Service Officer will let you know when you have 30 seconds left and then when the time has lapsed. When you're ready, if you can please switch on your mic and start speaking. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair and members of the committee. I'm Neil Whittingham from WW Medical Facilities, and I'm the applicant on behalf of Ramsay Healthcare. Before I start, I would just like to pass on my sincere thanks to Asif Ali and his colleagues in both highways and all departments. We did participate on the planning performance agreement, which was highly recommended. We entered into, and we found it a very positive experience, and we would recommend it for any application or any applicant that would come forward. So we've benefited from that. So for the next 4.5 minutes, I'd just like to explain that Fitzwilliam Hospital has been providing services to Peterborough's residents for over 40 years. The proposed development represents a vital enhancement to healthcare provision in Peterborough, addressing local needs, as explained, and delivering significant clinical and economic benefits. Peterborough faces well-documented health challenges, including lower life expectancy, higher rates of mortality from preventable diseases, and stark health inequalities across the communities. The proposed unit is going to be dedicated to day surgery only, no overnight, outpatient consultations and diagnostic scans, which would include on-site MRI, CT and X-ray facilities, and will directly tackle these issues by increasing accessible high-quality care. It is projected to handle around 4,600 elective day surgeries, of which 2,800 will be NHS appointments, and 24,600 outpatient appointments, of which 15,000 would be NHS appointments per year, with a 60% NHS, 40% private patient split, ensuring broad public access. Typical procedure types will include orthopaedic surgeries, anaesthetics, general surgery, ophthalmology, pain management, gynecology and urology. And daycare surgery offers many advantages to align with national best practices and improve patient outcomes. This would lead to reduced hospital stays, reduced risk of hospital-acquired infections, and allow patients to recover in the comfort of their own homes, promoting faster healing and better psychological well-being. This model is cost-effective for both the NHS and Ramsay, freeing up beds and resources in existing facilities, like Fitzwilliam, for more complex inpatient procedures. By extending Fitzwilliam's capacity, we can shorten waiting times for elective surgeries, enhance efficiency, and support the broader goal of elective waiting time reduction post-pandemic. Ultimately, the unit will provide up to 90 whole-time equivalent jobs in clinical and supporting roles, boosting local employment in a skilled sector. The site selection, Worldwide House was chosen as a preferred location after careful evaluation due to its designation under the development plan as development land and proximity to the existing Fitzwilliam Hospital, which is a 2-minute drive or a 15-minute walk away. Staff can easily navigate between the both facilities, enhancing operational facilities efficiency and reducing unnecessary travel. The site is also benefiting from good public transport links, including the nearby bus route every 20 to 30 minutes. And the recently completed Thorpewood Cycle Lane project is one of the best we've seen, and the local authorities should be very satisfied how attractive and safe this recent scheme presents. The development presents a unique opportunity to support Worldwide House and sustain an iconic part of Peterborough's economic history. I discovered during the process, and I'm sure many of you already know, that the site was previously the head office of Thomas Cook Travel, which tragically entered into administration in 2019, resulting in the loss of over 1,000 jobs locally, a stinging blow to the community's economy at the time. By locating the day case surgery within the grounds of Worldwide House, we feel as if we're helping in part to breathe new life into the standout building's grounds. Highways and traffic impact, we obviously take it seriously. On the matter of highways, we appreciate the local highway authority's scrutiny, but respectfully urge the committee to consider the full evidence. The site's original capacity accommodated over 1,000 car parking spaces during Thomas Cook's peak operations, serving over 1,000 staff and visitors daily for over 40 years. Repurposing as a business centre and assuming, if it ever does achieve full occupancy again, the combination of Worldwide House and our day case unit would only require around 700 spaces. This is a substantial reduction from the historic levels. We are understandably concerned by the local highway authority and citing a potential severe impact on the A47 junction. However, physical peak period observations, multiple iterations of transport modelling and queue modelling in February this year and recently on 3 neutral days indicate the development impact would be imperceptible to anyone using this particular junction. I've got a couple of things extra to say, but as far as I'm concerned, I would really request the committee's support to approve this application, recognising our commitment to healthcare, sustainable low-impact development. And
your time's up.
I have my consultants here to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, do you have any questions? Councillor Mahmood.
Yeah, sorry, I think I missed that in your address. How many jobs did you say that this proposal is going to generate?
It would lead to 90 whole-time equivalent jobs over the ramping up of the service over a number of years. So there'd be an immediate 35 new jobs. There's a transfer, because you've obviously got to take medical staff on board straight away. There'll be an immediate transfer of day case staff into this particular unit, and the average daily attendance by staff will be about 60.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions? No? Thank you. Can you kindly return back to the public gallery? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, members.
Thank you. As there are no many questions, any questions for officers? Councillor Hiller.
Thank you, Chair. It appears from the report that the only substantive objection is from our highways colleagues, which is fair, of course, because they know what they're talking about. But my question to officers would be, the additional load at in the afternoon peak on the Thorpewood junction, would it be fair to say that this particular facility is unlikely to be necessarily peak time centric rather than spread throughout the day? That's was my question, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Would you like to respond to that?
Thank you, Councillor, and through you, Chair. It's fair to say that there'll be an element of mix. So with staff, and there is that element of kind of starting the job and leaving. I know the applicant mentions that the staff that they propose within or are not included or kind of will leave after peak hours. But it's not unreasonable to say that the patient visits are spread throughout the morning and the afternoon periods. So there is an element of yes and no in that, which I know doesn't give you a straight answer, but it's not necessarily it wouldn't be entirely dependent on an AM, PM peak, like an employer or a typical employer use. It is different from that. I'm not sure if my highways colleagues want to add anything more to that.
Thank you. Sarah, would you like to add anything to it?
Thank you, Chair. Through you. Yeah, I mean, as Asif said, the nature of this use is very much spread throughout the day, but in the information that was provided, there was still sufficient trips from patients alone in the evening peak to trigger a need for a transport assessment and junction modelling of the A47 Neem Parkway interchange.
Thank you. Councillor Willoughby?
Yeah, I'm just wondering, have you looked at the junction to see if there's any way that it could be adjusted so that it's safer going into that junction?
Thanks, Chair. I think the A47 junction itself is quite complicated because of the number of arms that it has, the number of approaches. We had put forward a couple of suggestions of potential mitigation schemes that the applicants could explore. That hasn't been taken forward. In terms of doing something to the roundabout itself, that's more difficult because of the Thorpewood approach to the roundabout than it would be if it was just a standard sort of 4 approach roundabout.
Thank you. Councillor Ray?
Thank you again. Question on the highways sort of plan that's here. Just looking for a bit of explanation really, because I'm not as experienced as some of the other members around the table. I see that obviously within the projections you work out an RFC. That points out that we aim for sort of 0.85, between 0.85 and 1 is okay, and above 1 is an issue, and we're already at 3.7. What, in terms of real numbers, is an increase from 3.7 to 3.71? How many extra cars are we talking during that peak time that puts it up by that 0.1?
Okay, thank you, and through you, Chair. Just to put that in context in terms of that RSC value, so when we typically assess these transport assessments, there is an element of we look at that RFC value, and as you quite rightly pointed out, an RFC greater than 0.85 does warrant further investigation to consider whether there's any scope for highway mitigation or any measures that could reduce the traffic demand going through those junctions, which could then also help reduce our RSC value down. Obviously, where it goes over 1, that's above theoretical capacity. So what we mean by that effectively is it becomes unobservable. It becomes very difficult for the LHA to manage the highway network at that point because effectively it's beyond anything we can obviously control. Throughout my whole time of assessing transport assessments over the last 10 years, I'd say this is the first time I've seen a site produce an RFC above 3. This one's at 3.7, so obviously from my perspective, it's obviously 100% warrants further investigation. The reason why it's important to look at capacity and RFC values is because effectively, once the network starts operating at capacity conditions, this is where when you start seeing unsafe highway conditions. Effectively, there's lots of research out there in the highways professional domain that explores this sort of relationship between capacity and safety. And effectively, what that kind of demonstrates is that if you have travel times during peak hours that are 30% higher than what you would get outside of peak hours, that's when you start to see safety issues take place on the network. So that's the reason why for us it's been such a key issue for us to explore.
Thank you. Do you have some supplementary question? Yeah, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, grateful for the reassurance that it's going to be looked into as a junction anyway. I suppose with a city councillor hat on, to have something that's that high within the area needs reviewing regardless of this application. So I'm grateful that we're still going to look at that anyway. I suppose I appreciate it's not within our remit to consider hypotheticals, but with this being a business and retail park, typically, if we were looking at other applicants, we would probably be looking at people that would be utilising peak time more than what this proposal is. And I suppose similar to the comments made earlier, as such, and in comparison to other applications that may or may not come on that land, actually, this probably has a smaller impact on the local highway network than other proposals may have. So I suppose probably worth considering and valuing that as well.
Asif, did you want to contribute?
Yes, sure. Thank you. And just to kind of add a bit more figures to it. So in terms of the submitted transport information, in the PM peak, the proposal introduces 64 additional trips in the PM peak. But that's in kind of comparison to the total trips of 4,972. And that's based on the 2035 projection, with Worldwide House being at 100%. Now, it goes back to Ross's point in that when a situation is already unacceptable, if you add 10 trips to it or 15 trips to it, it's still a bad situation. But it's in that, so this is where the planning balance comes into it, which is before members, in kind of weighing up, well, the extent of the impact and take into account all other variables like you mentioning against the benefit. So it's just to put a bit more kind of real figures behind that.
Thank you. Any further questions? Okay, if no questions, we would like to begin the debate. Councillor Hiller.
Thank you, Chair, for the opportunity and through you, of course. I've thought about this a lot, actually, both on the site visit when our planning officer ably described the whole concept of this development, as well as the benefits to Peterborough citizens, both when it's built and, of course, at some time in the future. Personally, I would have thought with a facility of this type, the peak hour traffic would be noticeable. Of course it will be. There's 90 odd staff, and even with car share, that's a number of cars. But as I understand it, it used to be a Thomas Cook site. Is that right? And I would imagine that with Thomas Cook employees, it's a huge building that's there already. Surely that capacity, full capacity, that would create an enormous amount of car movements, which could happen. We don't need permission because it's already there. So I personally think the advantages do outweigh the disadvantages, as was in the report. I think the new, improved, much larger healthcare facilities, 40% private, 60% NHS, I mean, what's not to like for the people of this city? And I think that with the stats that we're told about health issues that we have in this city, I think this would be an opportunity missed if we didn't approve this. Chair, I'm sure our officers have ably conditioned all the necessary conditions that would go along with a consent, if indeed it is consented. And I personally would be supporting our officers' recommendation. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Mahmood.
Thank you, Chair, through you. Yeah, and I had my reservations around the highway impact, especially given what Councillor Ray, the statistics that you've just outlined there. But I think in the bigger picture, I think the benefits here will outweigh the harm. So in this current moment in time, I will be supporting officer recommendations.
Sorry. Thank you. I do apologise.
Councillor Bisbee, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks through you, Chair. Yeah, I've looked at this, and there is another way into the location if you come from the Hampton side, and I just wonder whether that's where the staff could come in, be advised to come in to be safe for themselves. But looking at it from my perspective, somebody who's used the daycare facilities in the city, I think it would really help the city to improve health. I think that does outweigh the issues with the highways. So for me, I think I would be approving this myself. Thank you. I'd be tending to do that.
Thank you. Councillor Warren.
And thank you, Chair, and I think I'm going to be on the similar lines as my fellow compatriots as well in that situation. Because obviously when we're looking at this application, there is going to be a highways harm with this application. I know this junction quite well. It is just outside my ward. I know how busy it can get at peak times. It has had that improvement of an extra lane. It just shows you the need of the highways, the need of the traffic in this situation. So I think we have to recognise the harm that this is going to cause. But then also we've got the balance of the public benefit, the benefit this is going to bring to the city. With the health benefits, we've seen the demonstrations about what it's like with the city and about that situation. And with the conditions that have been put into this application, on the balance of the situation with the highways harms versus the public benefit, I'm minded to go with the officer's recommendation and approve this application.
Thank you. Any further debate? Okay, if there's no further debate, can I have a proposer? Councillor Mahmood.
Thank you, Chair, and through you. Yeah, I propose that we go with officer recommendations and grant approval. Thank you.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Osby? Okay, all those in favour, raise your hands.
Thank you, Chair. That's unanimous to go with officer recommendation to grant.
Thank you. Thank you for that. That concludes our planning committee today, unless you want to sit further. We were booked for about 6-7 hours though. Anyway, thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.